So I think we're running. Welcome to today's episode of the AI Money Moves podcast. We have a very exciting guest today. For those of you just joining the pod, we are Synetics Consulting, and we specialize in helping insurance and financial services companies scale their revenue and optimize their processes, basically. So if you want to learn how to take your business to the next level, make sure you stick around. If you are interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the comments or the DMs and we'll get back to you pretty quickly. Without further ado, Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate being here. That's quite an introduction. Thank you.
Certainly. We appreciate you joining us as well and looking forward to diving into your background and all things insurance, some of which people look at the insurance industry as incredibly boring, but we certainly don't. And we'll uncover everything involved in that today as well. So, I mean, look, Kevin, we've obviously done our homework on the business and a little bit on yourself as well. It looks like you guys have been around since 1943. Is that right?
That is correct. We're in our 8th year in business.
That's crazy.
Truckers Insurance Associates.
Not many businesses can say that. So a lot of history there. I think the best place to start is just give us and the listeners insight on what Truckers Insurance Associates does, who you help, and just a little bit of an overview of the company.
Sure. Yeah. So we were birthed out of the Iowa Motor Truck Association back in 1943, and eventually became an independent operation. And in those 82 years, our mandate has not changed. We serve the trucking industry. We write truck insurance all over the country. We started, of course, in Iowa and surrounding states, but we're now in 37 states across the country. And our goal is to provide the best service, pricing, coverage that we can to the trucking industry.
Sounds good. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a family business. Is that right? Is it still the case, or?
It is a family business, but I'm not part of the family. So like I said, it was birthed out of the IMTA. It was purchased by Kenny Alvaugh around 1958, I believe, and his son and son-in-law are still owners of the business to this day. So,
yeah. I personally used to work for Arthur J. Gallagher not so long back, and obviously that's a family business as well, and it's still the family sitting at the top of the pyramid. So it's good to see that you've kind of held on to that, and you may not be family by blood, but I'm sure you're probably part of the family at this point somehow.
I've somewhat been grafted in. Yes, I've been here 24 years, so I would hope so.
Yeah, absolutely, and no, just on that, it's clear from your LinkedIn and a little bit of digging we've done on yourself that, 24 years is obviously a wealth of experience. Can you perhaps just share a little bit about who you are, your role at the company, and maybe how it fits in to that overall bigger picture at Truckers Insurance Associates?
Sure, absolutely. So, virtually everyone in underwriting at our company starts at the ground level. And, like I said, we're here to serve our customers. And so your first job at Truckers is to serve the customer on a daily basis, customer service, making policy changes, answering phone calls, things of that nature. So that's really the foundation for everything that we do here. And so that's a great place to start. And that's where I started 24 years ago, just a few months before 9/11, actually.
Really?
And in that time since then, I've grown in the industry and grown in stature in the company. I am now the COO, overseeing the day-to-day operations in the company. And, it's still true that we are here to serve the agent, serve the trucking company. Mm-hmm. Now, that looks a little bit different. Now I'm putting out fires, I'm fixing problems, getting deals done, things of that nature. But still the fundamental goal of the company and what I do on a day-to-day basis has remained the same.
So that's kind of the general undertone of however the company changes, how the industry changes, that's still a core value that you guys hold.
Absolutely.
On a personal level, did you intend to go into the insurance space? Because what we find is people fall into it and then they never leave. Was it always a goal of yours to get into insurance, or are you in that bracket where you fall in, you never left, and you work the way?
Yeah, most people do not, like you said, most people do not choose insurance. And, we're a niche in trucking insurance, so didn't probably even know that truckers needed insurance or hadn't thought about it before I joined here. Honestly, I chased a girl here. I was dating a college It was coming out of college, and I was dating someone from Iowa after meeting her on a summer trip, and I wanted to move to Iowa. And this was a job that I saw in the local newspaper and
Wow.
moved out here, and the job stuck, and I've still been here 24 years later, and the girl was gone within a couple of months after I moved out here. So in both respects, it panned out extremely well for me.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. And obviously now you are, well, a leader in the business. What would you say one thing is that most people don't understand about either leading an insurance business or perhaps the insurance industry in general?
Well, I can't speak to the entire insurance industry as a whole. We don't deal with health insurance or
Yeah.
life insurance, anything like that. But as far as our business is concerned, I think the common misperception amongst the public is that the insurance company is only interested in our own bottom line, and we don't care about who we're actually insuring. The
Yeah.
reality is, in truck insurance, on average, truck insurance companies are losing money every year.
Yeah.
And we are struggling with the same economic factors that everyone else is:
Hmm.
nuclear judgments, the cost of repairs, things of that nature, all drive the cost of claims up
Hmm.
at a faster pace than what premiums are increasing at. So
Yeah.
I think that's a component of what folks aren't seeing, that we're
Yeah.
really trying our best to figure out a way to make money without gouging the little guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, like a business such as yours, the time you've been around, I imagine you have some of those like long-standing clients that have just stuck with you through this whole process when the market's been up and down, and you've really built that relationship. I know that we had a couple of haulage companies when I was at AJG, and I don't know if it's the type of business sector, but those relationships always seem to be really strong with those type of businesses and those type of business owners as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a couple of clients for over 50 years.
Wow.
And they've just stuck
Wow.
with us, and we've stuck with them. And whether they had a good year or a bad year, or whether we had a good year or a bad year, we found a way to continue the relationship, and
Yeah.
that forged a really strong bond. That our fates were intertwined, and that was a powerful thing.
Absolutely. And in terms of trucking insurance specifically, is that line of business, is it becoming increasingly difficult to write?
It's a challenge to write. Yeah, like I alluded to earlier, every major city, if you look at the billboards as you enter the city, there's a billboard from a lawyer saying, "Have you been injured in a truck
Yeah.
accident?" And
Yeah.
they're interested in maximizing claims. And we're finding that even when a trucking company was not at fault, they are frequently paying out significant claims in the event of an accident. And so that's really tough to get ahead of. So that makes it hard to make money writing truck insurance, and that in turn makes it difficult to write it.
Absolutely.
There is a lot of, to the benefit of trucking companies, there is still a lot of competition. So there's a lot of options in trucking insurance. So it's incumbent upon each of those of us that are doing it to write it as effectively and aggressively as possible.
Yeah. Makes sense. I'll hand it over to
Amazing.
Don.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of shift over to, industry trends and market shifts that you've been seeing, being a company that, you're covering half of the US, how are, shifting insurance trends affecting your strategy?
Yeah, so there's the biggest shift that we have seen over the last few years is just the preponderance of data. When I started 20 some years ago, there were maybe 10 factors I could probably quote an account in my head and be accurate to within $100 by the time I plugged it in. Now there are so many factors. There's so much complexity to the rating systems. So many different, credit-based insurance scoring and government scoring that goes into it. All of those things that play into every single account. It's extremely difficult to predict the pricing on any given account until you plug it in. So that's a significant trend. But it also means, with that preponderance of data, it makes it tougher for the trucking company to manage that as well.
That
It's
was
no
actually
longer a
leading.
situation where a trucking company can put whatever they want on their logbooks and make that work. Now it's really locked down with their ELDs and with telematic devices. We have a pretty good sense of what they're doing and how they're operating. And that
Yeah.
can be positive for the really clean operations, and it can be negative for the ones that are a little sloppy.
Absolutely.
Positive and negative, yeah. And that was actually leading on to my next question is, from a business perspective, what would you say that main changes are for that?
From a business perspective, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, so the main changes, would you say, from a business point of view? What would
Yeah,
you
from a
say?
business point of view, it has caused us to have to continue to up our game in terms of underwriting. Like I said, we had just a handful of factors. It didn't take that much training to become an effective underwriter when you're only handling
Yeah.
a handful of factors. We're now, we've expanded in that time from about 5 states to 37 states. We're now looking at thousands of submissions a year, thousands of different trucking companies, and picking through those with the level of detail that we need to use, looking at all of those different data points and different services that we're obtaining data through. It's caused us to really have to up our game in our knowledge of underwriting. So our training has been tightened up and expanded. We're trying to hire smarter and smarter people, but the truth remains that service level is still the main factor. We can hire smart people that have no personalities and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
We have to hire smart people that still want to provide good service and care about their client. That empathy and that doesn't, the empathy is essential even more so than the knowledge.
For sure. And so, I mean, it sounds like lots of hiring. And, the new technologies, how are new technologies like, automation, AI, how would you say that sector is sort of changing the way that you're operating?
Yeah, so it's still emerging in our field. Truck insurance is a niche, and anytime you have a niche, it may not be the most technologically advanced of something that is more ubiquitous. Now, there's a lot more auto insurance clients in the world than there are trucking insurance clients, and so it's easier for some of those personal auto companies to innovate just from a volume standpoint. From an AI perspective, we receive submissions from a wide range of agencies across the country. Some of them are truck specialists. Some of them have one or two truck clients. Many of them don't know what they're doing. And so we have to be able to ingest submissions from a wide range of expertise and a wide range of applications that come in. And so where AI comes in is assimilating those submissions in a way that is efficient and quick, even if one submission is on a perfectly, completely filled out application that is typed and perfect versus another one that is handwritten and something that's barely better than a napkin. We have to be able to efficiently handle all of those things, and AI comes into play in helping us sort through all of those things and still find the best opportunities.
Absolutely. So just fine tuning and tweaking it, really. And I mean, this next one is more of a personal question, but I'm just curious, are firms, from your perspective, would you say that firms are scared of AI, or, do they see any sort of risks in terms of bringing in that automation?
I would say that most firms in our industry are skeptical of AI. There's such a personal touch to a lot of the things that we do that we question whether it's going to work. We don't think it's going to take over the world or anything like that, but we do question whether it will be worth the cost. A lot of the software solutions are rather expensive, and you have to make sure that that's going to work. You can tell when you're looking at an employee who's not going to work out that, hey, we can either train them, we can let them go. When it comes to AI, it's tougher because the cost is sunk and you don't always know that you're going to get the payoff. So it's just like any other piece of software. We're looking for efficiency, and sometimes it pans out well and sometimes it does not. So that's where the skepticism of AI comes in, but it's not going anywhere. So we have to tip our toe into it and be wise and cautious as we approach it, but still we have to move forward.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people would kind of take that same approach, and it's the same with anything that's new. It's like standoffish until it's commonplace. There'll come a point where it's fully adopted, but before, I guess, the proof's in the pudding, isn't it?
Sure.
If that's a term over there in the US, I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
it is. Yes, absolutely. Well, and when I started, we were a big fish in a fairly small pond.
Yeah.
And in the era of consolidation, a lot of our competitors have now merged. And we're now small. And we're much bigger than we were when I joined 24 years ago, but we're small compared to our competitors. And so we have to be wiser in the use of our capital than some of the networks that we're competing against, because there's perhaps more cash available. There's more room for them to make mistakes. We can't afford mistakes, but that doesn't mean that we can't afford risks. We still have to take those risks and push forward.
Yeah.
But as one of the last few independent agents that are out there, it's a badge of honor to a degree, and I think that still plays well to our customer base, knowing that we've maintained our values as we've grown and as we've moved forward.
Makes sense, makes sense. And leading on to that a little bit, aside from that, I guess, human touch and those core values that you still hold as a business, which are very apparent, what would you say is something that jumps out at you that is really working well for you in your business right now? Whether that's on a sales side, an operations side, like what's kind of top of mind that, we're really crushing this at the moment?
That's a tough question because you took service off the table. Honestly, service is the delineator. We like to hire people who have a competitive nature. We like to hire people that played sports in college. We like to hire people that just really get an adrenaline rush from getting a win. And frankly, aside from just nice, responsive people, we want people who are aggressively trying to get the deal done and coming up with creative and intelligent ways to make that happen. So sometimes for us, that means making the extra phone call and leveraging a favor from an underwriter. Sometimes that means exploring a series of quotes so that we can assemble a package that's going to be competitive and fulfill the needs. But the most important thing there is not just the service, but the doggedness in approaching those different markets and constantly innovating and finding new markets that we can represent. So that's what's working for us. And that's what I think will continue to work regardless of the technology that comes into play.